hay oportunidades para hacer esto. Entonces, si alguien quiere, yo tengo la dirección. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Sorry, I couldn't find any parking, and I'm still parked in the Eagle Plaza, the handicap.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Did you go back to the back lot? It's all full. Oh wow. That's too bad.
Do you think that,
I'm guessing that's probably where a lot of people are looking for parking. I apologize.
there are 2 handicap spots available?
I think just stay there. I don't think anyone's gonna call the cops on us here, so. Yeah.
Keep parking by the garbage.
By the garbage disposal? Okay, that's okay. I think, yeah, they told me there was another class tonight, but they said that we should be fine if we parked in the back, but okay, I apologize. Okay, so there's breakfast tomorrow. I also just wanted to remind people about a few other things coming up. So Wednesday, this coming week, we have a class on promoting your farm business. So we're gonna hear from a farmer who has, we're gonna hear from a farmer who has done a really good job promoting her business. And we're also going to hear from a woman who is a professional brand developer for farmers. So that's this Wednesday. Another option on Wednesday is actually in St. Paul at the Mississippi Market Food Co-op. There's a conversation about cooperative development. So if developing a farm co-op is something you're interested in, I know Fenley is pretty involved in conversations like that too. You can check that out too. It's at Mississippi Market and it's by an organization called Co-Minnesota. It's like co-op Minnesota. And that's from 6 to 8 Mississippi Market. Another announcement is that, so tonight we're gonna go over how to make a seed order for your crop plan. And we're also going to, we've already talked about how to make a greenhouse plan. And so on Friday, I have your due date for your final seed order and greenhouse plan. So we're doing that for the shared plot in class, but for other people, if you would like any feedback on those plans, I'm happy to provide it, and I would love to see them anyway, see what you're up to. So try to turn in those 2 documents, seed order and greenhouse plan, by this Friday. And then the last thing of the week is on Saturday. We don't typically have class yet on Saturdays, but this Saturday at 10:30 a.m. at the Arlington Hills Community Center. So it's the library in East St. Paul. It's right on the corner of Phelan and Payne. Or no, it's not. It's on the corner of Maryland and Payne. Excuse me. There's a community center there, and they have a computer lab, and we are going to be setting up accounts for the Ag Squared, which is that record-keeping app-based mobile system. So that's going to be this Saturday morning, 10:30. We're going to get a little, we're going to do a little debriefing on successful record-keeping in general, but then we're going to also set up free accounts for everybody that wants to in Ag Squared to do your record-keeping digitally for the first time this year. Hopefully it works out. And so for that training, just bring your list of seeds. And also bring your farm team members' names. And if you have a laptop, bring a laptop. I think I'll have enough computers for everyone, but if you have a personal laptop, that would be helpful too. And I think we're having some technical difficulties. So next week there are more classes, so keep an eye on your schedules. Yeah, and that's all my announcements. And I'm waiting for my second presenter. I was hoping May would be here by now, but so can I help with the interpretation stuff? You're good?
They don't have that completed yet, so I think I'm learning to do the system. They can be used on receiver centers.
Is there no transmitter?
No,
There should be a transmitter. homework. Did the shared plot farmers have any changes? Did you come up with a final plot map that you want to share? Okay. Or you can also move around the, pueden mover las notas si quieren.
Bueno, no me lo voy a mover, sino que yo hice un plan de siembra con respecto a unos puntos sobre lo que nos dieron, sobre la información de los cultivos.
So based on the information we have from 2 weeks ago,
Entonces tomé en cuenta, por
we
ejemplo,
started the planting.
obviamente las fechas de plantación, de cosecha, y posteriormente tomé en cuenta
Planting dates, harvesting dates,
algunos problemas que pueden afectar a las plantas, como son las enfermedades,
and I wrote down
los insectos
some of the problems that the plant could have, like the disease and insect problems.
y la compatibilidad de las asociaciones.
And then I wrote down which crops are compatible to put them together.
Okay.
Y también de cultivo principal, que esa vez comenté.
And then I also wrote down what would be my main crop.
Sería, yo quiero consultarlo también.
But I wanted to talk to you about it.
Okay. Yeah.
Sí, entonces, por ejemplo, un ejemplo es el celery,
As an example, I wrote down here celery.
que y el cilantro,
And then
el leek, como el leeks, son cultivos que pueden repeler, pueden ahuyentar insectos.
So I heard that those crops can repel the insects.
Sería buena idea que estuvieran como a la orilla de
So I
la
wondering if
casa
I could plant them around in the perimeter
puedan ahuyentar.
so that they can
Y
repel the insects.
por ejemplo, las familias de las cicas, que el principal problema es
I read about the main problem for cicadas.
black root.
Black rot.
Black rot for brassicas. Black rot. Yep.
Entonces tenemos 3 cultivos de esa familia
So since we have 3 crops from that family,
que podemos evitar tenerlas juntas
we should probably plant them separately, right?
para que no se contaminen entre sí.
So they don't get contaminated with each other.
Si a una de las 3 puede primero atacarle la enfermedad, no podamos transmitirlas.
That way, plant gets the disease, one transfers to another one that is in.
Yeah.
Igual como el cultivo de jalapeños y tomatillos,
So in jalapenos and tomatillos,
uno de los problemas que creo que son los virus.
well, one of the problems we have there is the virus.
Virus.
Insectos que provocan virus
Or insects.
o pestes. Virus.
Beetles.
Virus.
But yeah,
Insectos.
I don't know if they have that many problems with beetles though.
Bueno, los ciudadanos que son temprano y también, bueno, es uno de los problemas. Y entonces igual tenerlos como que alejados para no, y como es
So is it
tiempo,
recommended to have them separate?
como es tiempo también de lluvia que nos va a tocar, entonces pero cosas de
Yeah.
ese tipo tomé en cuenta, me puse a buscar
Yeah.
y referente a eso hice el plan, pero no
So
sé.
you did a plan based on all of this stuff?
Sí,
Okay.
sí, más.
Yeah. So, and then also thinking of the planting dates. Did you think of the planting dates too?
¿Y pensaste también en las fechas de siembra?
Sí, eso es nada más, es como que pensé en eso y sí, como que están en esas fechas.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, I think all of those things seem like good things to think about when you're designing your plot map. And I think,
Esas son cosas en las que pensar cuando se hace el plan de...
yeah. So maybe, do you want to draw out your plot map on here or move around the post-it notes so that it matches your plan, or do you feel like it's not ready yet to put up on the board?
No, estoy listo. Es que igual como que me falta un poco de tiempos porque no tenía la información completa, pero más o menos
¿Te faltó qué?
el tiempo de plantación y de cosecha en algunos cultivos.
I didn't complete
En algunos.
Okay.
the planting time for certain crops.
Yeah.
Creo que sí van a coincidir.
Okay. Cool.
Pero no estoy preparado para...
Put it up there. Okay. Did anybody else do the changes? Any changes to the planting plan?
Además que haya...
You did? What does yours look like? Do they look similar or do they look really different?
We haven't compared yet, but similar to what's
Similar to what's up there.
yeah,
Okay.
it's changed a little bit since we did that version.
Okay.
And I basically went in order of planting date.
Planting day. Okay. Cool. Well, maybe after class or something, if we can finish up early in this class, maybe the shared plot farmers can come together and make a final decision about the plot map. That sounds okay? I think one piece of homework that we said we were going to follow up on was to let everyone know about the field history so that you could practice crop rotation. And Molly actually looked up the field history of the plot that you were in, and there was a lot of brassicas there last year. And so she actually chose to move you because the field history and versus your crop plan was actually like, it would have been way too many brassicas 2 years in a row. And since we have a lot of options at our farm, it was easier to just put you in a new field. So your new field is going to be B1. So you're going to actually be right next to the other shared plot. So you're both in B1. And so that's something to think about for sure and take into consideration when you're making your crop plan is the field history. And just so you're aware too, in B1 last year, it was almost all green beans in the area that the shared plot, first year shared plot is this year. We can get the information for the other chunk of that field, but and it was in 2017 it was peppers and tomatoes, and so that's not, it's not ideal for having peppers and tomatoes there again another year, or putting the tomatillos and the jalapenos there, but it's such a small quantity, we're only doing like a couple of beds, it just is not going to be exactly perfect. So we're not going to have a perfect crop rotation. At least there was no jalapenos and tomatoes there last year, but just because there's so many different farmers on the same space, it's hard to do a perfect crop rotation, but it's better than it was having it in a place where there was a lot of brassicas and when you're growing a lot of brassicas. So
I have a question about the second year shared plot.
yeah.
So for the orientation of our plot, is it, I don't know, is it going like the long, is our rows going like the long way?
They would be going the short way.
So if they go the short way, then we should block the little rows.
It would be lots of little rows. If you, I think that has,
Because it was like 50 short rows or
Okay.
20 long rows. And so we were like,
I also wonder if then the dimensions are totally right. It shouldn't be 50. I wouldn't think.
I don't know, if, maybe we can look at it before we like.
Yeah.
Because it's 140 by 10.
Yeah. So 140 foot long rows by how many feet?
310.
Yeah. So we would have them, typically they would go 140 foot the short way.
And then so that's each of the beds are 60?
Yeah. Is it? Okay.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's huge.
So, how many feet is it long?
This is 140 by 310.
That's for B1, for the whole B1.
That's the whole view.
So I think,
That's the whole.
yeah. So we can just, I would just say for the shared plot for you guys, I would just plan on doing 140-foot beds, and then
Is how many are the rows we need?
however many rows you need. That's what I would say. Yeah.
That was the.
Yeah. And I guess I will also just say, in 2016, for your information, going back another year, the shared plot was in buckwheat and rye. So it was cover cropped. So after this year, we'll have to cover crop that piece of land again.
Sorry, I have a dimensions question.
Okay.
So, because we moved, we were plotting out 150 by 96. So
Yeah.
we have to change to 40 by, will our number of beds change?
So you were in D1, right? And so you were having 154-foot long beds.
Yeah, we did this, we wrote down
150. So 150-ish. So your plots, you're gonna have about 10 feet less of everything in those other beds. And I think we would probably be fine going with the plan and not changing the number of beds too much. But I'll bring that back to the team because it's slightly different. But I think that since we're like incorporating extras, I would think that cutting 10 feet off wouldn't be a huge change in yield, hopefully, but yeah. And yeah, but I can bring that back and ask Molly and May to answer that question for the next class. So I guess one question I have before we can move on with the shared plot example is, did you all decide on having a half of a bed of celery or less celery, or like a third of a bed?
switch it to
A half of a bed? Okay. So Molly completed, and I should also mention that Molly was going to teach this class but is in Dallas, and so since we rescheduled, I'm filling in, and I'm hoping May will still show up because May was also supposed to still co-facilitate with me. So I'm going to do my best, and I apologize if I don't have everything right, but so I have your field planting plan and record, which we had already completed, right? This is with,
Una pregunta.
yes.
¿Ese plan de siembra lo mandaron al correo?
It should be in the Google site. Did you end up uploading the field planting plan on the Google site? Do you know? Otherwise, so that should be up there, but if it's not, we can double check and make sure it's on the Google website. So this is with a half, we said a half a bed of celery? Okay. So based on a half, did folks finish the greenhouse plan from last week? You did? Okay, so based on half a bed of celery, I'm gonna turn off this light so it's easier to see. I just wanna see if you have any differences or if this looks all the same as what you did in your homework. So we had tell me when to go down to. For the,
Yeah, will you just like plant your celery, then just leave that half bed open, and then plant your broccoli, and then come back to that space?
I mean, it's kind of up to the shared plot. Like if
Is that what they
you
normally do it? We always just did it. We always
going
did
in
it.
order.
Yeah. it always-
Yeah. I mean,
Some spaces too, that's why.
the disadvantage is that you can, if you prepare a full bed, because you can only prepare a full bed with a tractor, you can't prepare a half of a bed with a tractor. If you don't plant it right away, then weeds are going to come up, and then you go back and plant it. You're going to have to weed it before you plant it. So it's inconvenient. So it's not ideal, but I guess I would leave it up to you guys what you wanted to do with that half a bed, if you wanted to fill it up with, because they have, this is our greenhouse plan, but we were looking at, you're thinking of the field planting plan.
Yeah, but yeah, that still there.
Yep.
We have some empty spaces too.
And I don't know how long, what are our field planting dates? How many weeks difference is it?
It's 1 week.
1 week. So really, realistically, that's not that bad, because if you think about, you're not always going to get your tractor work done on exactly the day that you put in your plan, and maybe everything's going to be ready on that same day to plant anyway. If it was going to be like a month later, I would think maybe you should do something else with that bed, but since it's within such a short time frame, I wouldn't worry about it that much. Does that sound good to the shared plot farmers? Do you have another question?
Yes. En las camas van a llevar plástico.
That's another thing that we can determine. So typically we would recommend with certain crops to use plastic. He asked if they're going to use plastic mulch, right? Yeah. So there are certain crops that like it. Does anybody have ideas which crops you might want to use plastic mulch with?
I know it's from the
Tomatillos?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's plastic.
Jalapeños.
Jalapenos?
Cauliflower.
You would do it with cauliflower too?
Brócolis.
Yeah. Cabbage. So you would use a lot of things with plastic mulch. Yeah. So it's kind of up to the farmers what you all want to decide on doing. I know that we would recommend doing it for sure for the tomatillos and for the jalapenos. You can definitely also use it for brassicas, for the cauliflower, and people even use it for onions, because onions are a crop that's in the ground for a really, really long time, and so you have to weed them a lot of times. And so some people really like using plastic mulch. Other people don't like it because it's a lot of work to rip up at the end of the year, and it's also just like a use of plastic that you wouldn't have to use. We did find a way to recycle our plastic mulch this year, which is really cool because that's never been possible before. It used to always go just into a landfill, but yeah, go ahead.
So the jalapenos and the tomatillos, would that be because of weed pressure that you want to use the plastic mulch?
Yeah, so, well, for the Salacia, for the tomatillos, jalapenos, tomatoes, Jose mentioned they don't like to get their leaves wet, and the reason is because they're really subject to blight and to disease. And so if you put plastic down and if you irrigate with drip irrigation underneath that plastic, it's better than like doing sprinkler system. It's way better than doing a sprinkler system. You for sure shouldn't use a sprinkler system. But it's also better because sometimes that disease can live in the soil. And when the raindrops fall and they hit the soil and splash up, like they can bring the disease from the soil up onto the leaves of those plants. So that's definitely one reason why on that family, they definitely recommend plastic mulch. It's a good disease prevention.
Yeah. So I was going to try plastic mulch for the onions this year.
Yep.
Yes, they're really difficult to
Yeah.
make, especially if you're planting them kind of close together. But so there's a couple of different kinds, and I wasn't really quite sure where I should go. Is a biodegradable mulch or plastic, or what was the other kind? It was like woven.
Okay.
woven type so that water could get through the plastic.
Yeah, I think I would check on the biodegradable plastic and find out if that's approved, if organic certification is something you're interested in, because sometimes I'm not sure if they've approved that for use yet in organic, which is unfortunate because it would be really awesome, but I think that sometimes that biodegradable plastic is made out of genetically modified corn.
Okay.
So check on that.
Okay. And I think I was looking at greenhouse mega stores, kind of where
Sure.
I've got some row cover there before.
Yeah.
But because it was cheaper though too.
Uh-huh.
Like price per foot, it was not a lot cheaper, but it was cheaper.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, check into that. I mean, we've gotten our plastic mulch. We just get like black plastic mulch, and we've gotten it from both Jordan's, the same place. I have one of their catalogs, which is over on by Woodbury, kind of.
Okay.
They sell it just by like one roll at a time. If you just want to buy one roll, if you're going to be putting it in by hand. We've also ordered it from a company called Nolts, which is NOLT''S. And they have good prices. They have better prices than Jordan's, but you can't just go there and buy it. You have to order it. So sometimes shipping makes it. So that's all we've used, and I don't know. I wish Mayor Molly were here that could recommend more of like the specifics of like why we chose those plastics, but I'm assuming they were probably cheaper, and they work too with our plastic mulch layer, and they're approved for organic use. Because it's better to plastic. I mean, it's a toss-up, right? Because like you're using plastic, but I think it's seen as better to use plastic mulch because you're not going to disturb the soil as much by weeding all the time. Every time you weed, it's not good for the soil because it's destroying soil life essentially. So they see any kind of mulching is better in organic use anyway when you're trying to build soil health. But yeah, I haven't seen like the woven stuff. I know like one person last year at our farm used ground cloth instead of like plastic mulch. He got like actually fabric, and he burned holes in the fabric. He made like a door. He used like a door and made like a stencil where he made all the spacing perfect with the holes. And it took him a really long time to lay it all down, but I think most people who were at the farm last year could say he had like the least weeds out of anyone, and his plot looked really beautiful.
He did water by timer, so.
Yeah. 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 So he invested a lot of time, and also I think that way of mulching is more expensive too. And it's good for a small amount of land. Like I don't think he'll probably he's jumping from a 1/4 of an acre to a full acre this year, and I don't think that that's practical when you're doing a bigger scale. But when you're small, it might be a good option. You can reuse it every year versus plastic mulch you have to tear up.
Well, the
and
woven
throw it
stuff
away.
I looked at, it said like it had a 20-year use.
Okay, so that would be probably more like a ground cloth type of a thing.
Okay, maybe that's.
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah, like a landscape fabric.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So things to think about. But
Yeah.
but yeah, so I would say it would probably be a decision for each shared plot, like what do you want to try plastic mulch on and what do you not want to. Obviously not for direct seeded things, it's not ideal because the sun's not going to get in there as well. But yeah, so like the cilantro, obviously you would not be using it for, but you could theoretically use it for all the other crops. So it's kind of a decision you guys can make, I think, together, and probably with some help from May. All right, going back to the greenhouse plan, I just was wondering if anybody had any other changes that they wanted to propose. Who did the homework? Did you have any different numbers for this greenhouse plan? Or does it all look the same as what you calculated?
Many people are doing the deck and the car from.
Yeah, go for it.
You think because it's a deck and the car.
Sure, that's fine. Did you have any differences, Jesse? I think you're the only.
I think it might just be rounding of the cauliflower.
What did you have for
I rounded up to 6, but it looks like,
6 flats instead of 7?
yeah.
Okay. Because how many plants?
Why we two didn't want to class?
I'm not sure. Let's see. For both of the plantings of cauliflower?
Yeah.
So we want 400 plants for each planting.
Yeah.
So
400 divided by 72
how much is that?
is 5.5.
5.5. Yeah, I don't know why she would put 7. I agree with you. Do other people agree? I don't know how to translate that. Con la matemática.
De 400 dividido por 72 es 5.5.
Entonces,
En vez de 6,
¿pero qué creen? ¿Creen que sería suficiente tener 6 en cambio de 7?
Había dicho que 7 por porcentaje de pérdida. Sí, entonces es un porcentaje más. El 7 para por 6 pérdida, nos alcance a producir, a alcanzar la meta de producción.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why it's 7. Do you both want to keep 7? I could see going 6 or 7. I mean, 7 is adding a little bit extra, but I bet you 6 would probably be enough too. But you want to keep 7? Okay. Well, we can keep 7. I think that's fine. That'll give us plenty of cauliflower. Maybe we can give away some cauliflower starts. Cool. So we can upload this greenhouse plan to the shared plot drive, and we can also, once we finalize all these plans, we can print off copies so everyone has a paper copy too, if that's helpful. But any other questions on greenhouse planning or field planning, or does that all seem to be making sense to people? All right.
I have one question on the weeks. On the planting date is, or the seeding date is March 9th.
Yep.
So that'll be, will we do that our first tab?
Yes. So after this Saturday, the next Saturday is going to be our first day in the greenhouse at the farm. So everyone's welcome to come, even if you're not growing your starts there. But Saturday, March 9th, we will have a greenhouse orientation. We're also going to talk about some safety stuff, like where to go if there's a tornado, because there's some severe weather in sometimes. And we are also going to start seeding. So we will start seeding. Onions and leeks are the first things that people start to seed. So you can plan on that. And yeah, so that's why it's important to finish up these plans sooner than later, so we make sure we have all of our seeds and supplies.
Laura, so for our CSA crops, do we know the variety?
So we did make, okay, here's a spoiler alert. I can pass around some of these. Molly made seed orders for the contracted crops for the shared plots. So there's some stuff that's already determined, and this is going to bring us into our next portion, which is actually talking about making a seed order. So those are for you guys. Can you pass them around? But we did not order anything that's not in the contract. This is for Faro, and then you can pass these out to everybody else. So everyone that's not in the shared plot will get a copy, just so you can see like an example of a seed order. So we did order some already, and then the rest of the things that are not contracted, we'll have to order still. And we can, as the organization for the shared plot farmers, will be able to order and cover those costs.
We're doing cantaloupe, I don't think the cantaloupe's in the item.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to switch over to a PowerPoint, and I apologize that May is not here. So I'm going to do my best on this whole PowerPoint, but forgive me if it's boring or if I don't remember everything right. But tonight, the main point that we want to talk about is creating your seed order, and we're also going to address organic inputs. And so we're going to go through some of the concepts behind creating a seed order, and then we'll get into doing some examples and hopefully creating the seed order for the first year shared plot. But first, before we get to seeds, I just wanted to define what is an input, and it's basically anything that you put into your land. So that includes all of the things on this list: seeds, water, fertilizer, pesticides, transplants, or slips. Slips are like a strawberry comes in a slip. It's like a little baby plant. Cover crop, paper chains. So that's the picture. We saw the video in class last time of the paper chain. So that would be considered an input since it's going into your land. Inoculants, which is like a powder, like bacteria that you can put on things like bean seeds to help them germinate better. And potting soil. So when you're growing your own transplants, you're putting potting soil also into your field and into the land, and so that's also considered an input. So all of these things are inputs. And if you're interested in being certified organic, you have to keep really good track of all of your inputs and make sure that they all fall within the organic certification guidelines. And so we're going to go more in depth on organic certification requirements in our class at the end of March. We're going to have an inspector come in and talk about all the things that go into an organic systems plan. But in terms of inputs, so anything on that last slide, they all need to be approved by your organic certifier before you can use them. And so I put or MFA staff because for people that are farming at MFA, if you're underneath our certification, which all of you are that are in this room right now, we're essentially acting as an intermediary between the certifier and all of you. So we'll have the inspector will come in and talk with all of you individually, but if you have something that you want to apply, whether it's a fertilizer or like plastic mulch is an input, you have to make sure that it's okay for use in organic, and you can ask us instead of asking. Normally you would ask your certifier if things were okay. And you'll actually get a list of approved inputs, so every time you ask a question, they'll say yes or no, and if they say yes, they're going to add that item, specific item. They're going to ask you for labels and ingredients, and even if it's something like sugar, like someone last year wanted to put molasses on his field, and so they needed to know the brand of the molasses and what are the ingredients. And so you can do pictures of labels, you can send in like invoice receipts, but you have to hold on to those things too for your inspection. So that's part of the record keeping and part of the process of getting certified, is approving everything by your certifier. And some people may see, if you look on like a bag of soil or a bottle of fertilizer, you see this OMRI listed, and and you also see these USDA organic seals on products, and that means that some certifier has, approved this for organic, but it doesn't mean that your certifier has approved it as organic. And so even if you see these general labels that say they're organic or OMRI listed, it doesn't mean that you can just go ahead and use it. You still, before putting anything into your land, to still need to run it by your certifier. And that's sort of unfortunate because it seems like there could be some easier way of doing it, but that's the way it is. All certifiers interpret the law. So the organic certification is based on the organic law. And so every certification agency is interpreting it a little bit differently. And so that's the reason why always check with your certifier before using anything, even if it has these labels. I will say, OMRI is, I can't remember what the acronym stands for, but they put out a catalog every year of OMRI listed products. So like if you really don't know what to use, if you're starting from scratch, I would recommend before going there, try to just talk to other farmers and get an idea of what other people are using. But you can look in that catalog and it'll give you a good idea of like what are all the products that most certifiers are approving for organic use. So they have an actual book you can get. And I don't have one with me, I used to have one, but it's easier just to go and ask your certifier. And I already wrote on there too, keep receipts and packaging. So this goes for anything that you're going to put into your land. Keep the receipt and keep the package. So even like if you have a bottle of fish fertilizer or like a bag of soil, keep a bag of soil, like keep an empty bag so that you can show when your inspector comes, look, here's my empty bag, and you can prove that you used it. It counts as proof. So, questions on that? Go ahead, Shoa.
Since you mentioned about fertilizer, last weekend when my husband and I went to the conference, the Mulch conference, and I think that company, they came over there, so the dramatic K, and on the picture or on the fertilizer, there's a new label. It doesn't say dramatic K, there's dramatic O, dramatic 1, and they say that they changed to a new label.
Okay.
So when they say that they're no more continuing the dramatic K, you won't see the K, but like everything is the same.
Okay.
So they said that since they brought it to the conference, a little bit cheaper than order it through their website.
Okay.
And we bought
You bought some?
some.
So it's probably gonna.
On there it had those labels.
Yeah. So we should still get it approved by the certifier. I'm sure that it will probably be fine if they say that it's the same as dramatic K, but it just changed the label. I'm assuming if all the ingredients are the same, the certifier will probably approve it, so you're probably fine. But we should still submit that to the certifier and get it on our list, because that specific thing with that name is not on our list of approved substances. So you can take a picture. You've done this before, I think, with us. Take a picture, email it to me, and that we can get it approved.
Because I talked to them, I asked them like, do they sure that we'll be able to use for organic?
Mm-hmm.
And they said, yes, it will approve because they have those labels and it's organic.
Yeah.
Fertilizer, it's dramatic.
Yeah.
K. But it just, that's the new label that from now on, that will be the new label.
Yeah.
For the,
It probably is fine, but it never hurts. I mean, you always should still check. If it's something new that you've never used before, you always should check with your certifier before using it. And if you got a really good deal, and if they said it was...
It's a dramatic K, it's just that the label...
The label's changed.
They changed the new label.
Yeah, so if they change the name, if it's still dramatic K and just the same, if it says dramatic K still...
Yeah, it's the same, but it doesn't have a K in there.
Yeah, so...
It's a fish, it's a dramatic K, but that's just a new label.
Yeah.
It just changed it.
That's funny. It's too bad that they did that, because that's kind of annoying that we have to go now and check with the certification agency, but we still should go and check. I'm actually going to pass out some of the seeds from, do you want to pass them around really quick? Just a couple seed packets per table. These are actually the shared plot seeds from last year. And so I just wanted to talk about a seed packet and what is the information that you can find on a seed packet. So what is some information you can find on a seed packet? Or do you have a question?
Bueno, no sé si ya entregarían como un manual de los certificadores o algo así para que nosotros podamos igual repasar, por ejemplo, qué insumos permiten.
There's
yeah, so we will go over certification in our class. I think it's the last Wednesday in March. We have a class about organic certification, and we're going to go over all the parts of an organic systems plan, which is like the application you turn in as a farmer to get certified. Yeah, there are like other publications. I could probably find, like Moses has like a simple guide to getting organic certification, and I could probably find one of those for you too. But all the stuff that we're going over in class, like all the plans and all the talk about records, is all part of getting certified organic.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
yeah, so it's all part of it.
Okay, thank you.
But yeah, we can do something like that too. But yeah, so these are some examples of seed packets. You also have seed packets on your tables. What is some information that you see on your seed packet?
Nombre de la empresa.
What kind of sun it likes? What depth do you want to plant your seed? How long till you start seeing the seedling come up? How long till maturity of the plant where you can harvest?
Yeah. Do you guys remember the days to maturity? What that actually means?
Certificación. ¿Por quién está certificado? ¿No?
Yeah, certified organic. So the seed producer was certified organic by this agency, MAFCA. Yeah, so that's their certifier. Ours is different. But do people remember the days to maturity from what? How many days from when is it going to be mature? Or does anyone know what that means? It's not germination.
From planted ground to
Yes.
harvest?
Yep. So the time you plant it into the ground. And so if it's a transplant, it's actually the time that you put the transplant into the ground, not from when you started into the greenhouse. But yeah, so days to maturity, who's certified at organic? You listed a whole bunch of things.
How much space it needs?
How much space it
How
needs.
the spacing
Yeah.
of every seed?
Yep.
So like for like the students for like bell pepper, like days of maturity, 87 days. Do we add the days that it was being in the greenhouse transplant, or is it's all included?
So you start the days to maturity from the date that you put it in the ground. So in addition to that, you also have your greenhouse days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'd be like.
So it would be like a long time.
Add 14 days onto whatever it says.
It would be more than
As an
14.
example.
I think it's more than 14.
Yeah, it would be more than 14.
4 weeks.
Yeah, something like that.
Like 30 days.
Yeah, so if you're starting peppers, they take a long time to get, especially for red peppers, yeah.
How do you know which crop is needing how many days in the greenhouse?
We have that cheat sheet. Actually, there's one in the back there. It's the, you can also find that, can you find that in the seed catalog? I can't remember. But we have that cheat sheet called the Greenhouse and Field Planting Guide, this one. Do you remember this, Joa?
Is it on days on the second?
The days that it needs to be in the greenhouse?
Yeah, it's like into the bitter melon.
Yeah. Yeah, it might be in the seed packet. You could also look in the seed catalog. Or you can think about things that are in the same family. So like bitter melon is sort of like, what is it sort of like? Cucumber?
So it's more like compared to the same family crop, or?
I would say that's a pretty good way to do it. Like if you don't have the information, like maybe you get your seeds from a source that is not very well known and they don't have all the different specs. Like we're gonna go over what information's in a seed catalog too, but I would compare it to like plants too. And then, I mean, the best way to know any of this information is from your own records. So for someone like you, you've grown them in the greenhouse. So if you have your records from last year, you can go based off of your records. And that's what you actually know to be true versus reading what someone else's trials showed you. Anyway, So there's a lot of information you can find on a seed packet. All seed packets look different. So we have a few different packets on this PowerPoint from different companies. So this one is from Seed Savers Exchange. And you see it says organic, there's like a little organic seal. This is the front of the packet. There's really not that much information on the front. Most of the information is on the back on this one. There's high mowing. High mowing has different looking packets depending on the quantity too of seeds you buy. But this one says 50 days. So you know it's gonna be 50 days from the time you plant the seed till you get to harvest it. It tells you that it's 1/32 of an ounce. So those seeds are really tiny. They don't weigh very much at all. It tells you that that amount of seed sows about 23 feet. And it also has an item number. And then this one is from Johnny's. And it has a number of different things. So it does tell you again the days to maturity. So depending on if you're going to harvest it as baby lettuce or full lettuce, it's a different amount of days. It tells you how many seeds. So this one says, rather than a 32nd of an ounce, it tells you you have 400 seeds. So this one you're kind of like, well, how many seeds does that really mean that I have? This one tells you exactly 400 seeds. And it also tells you a lot number, which is important. We're going to need to know where to find our lot numbers. So does anyone have a high mowing seed packet at their table?
Yeah.
Do you see the lot number on high mowing, where it is?
It says batch number.
Yes.
It's by the,
Up on the,
it's by the barcode.
yeah, so it's the one right underneath the barcode.
Oh,
2500XP. Yeah, so there's different places where people put the same information depending on the brand of the seed company, which is sort of confusing for farmers, but
well, even like the ounce and like the quantity.
Yeah.
Is like really annoying.
It's kind of
Oh my
complicated.
God, why can't it all be the same?
Yeah. So we'll go into that too and how to convert it, but
Laura, you should mention that high mowing is, they're all organic.
yes.
And the other two,
Yeah,
the other
that's
two
nice.
you're gonna have to search for organic.
Yep, so we'll talk about that too. Oops.
What does it mean where it says NOP, certified organic?
So that's the National Organic Program. So NOP stands for National Organic Program,
Es el Programa Nacional Orgánico.
and that's like the law.
Establece la ley de certificación orgánica.
But you can also see on those seed packets that, does anyone have one that does not say that it's certified organic?
Hay algunos que dicen que
Or are they all certified organic?
Are certified as-
Okay, so maybe they were all, I know that, I think we maybe had a couple things that were not organic last year, but maybe we had everything organic. But it does say that one's not organic?
Yeah, that's what it is.
So one thing you notice too on Johnny's packets, if you look at two Johnny's, it'll say, like this one is organic and it says Red Ace, F1, and then it says OG after the name. And so that's another way to tell that it's certified organic. It says OG after the name. And that one is from Johnny's too, that's not certified?
Hay un Johnny's.
Yeah. Yeah. So this one does not say OG. So it says just dark shell F1. And it does not say OG, so this one is not certified. So there's different ways you can tell whether or not the seeds are certified organic, and one way is by the seed packet. And I'm also going to tell you, so this was the place where the shared plot farmers kept their seeds, and they still have them, so we do need to get all those seed packets back from everybody, because that's still a record that we're required to keep for, I think it's for 3 years. I should know this, but we can ask the certifier too. So you actually have to keep all of your seed packets. And Faro can say from experience that they are going to actually ask you to see your seed packet. So the inspector is going to come. We're going to give them a list of all the seeds that we ordered and we plan on planting. And the inspector is going to come sometime during the season, and they're going to do an audit, and they're going to ask you for probably the one seed packet that you lost. That's usually how it goes. And our certifier, you know, she knows we're like an educational farm, and so I think she's forgiving if she wants it to be a learning experience, but you can't have too many mistakes, otherwise it will compromise the certification. So it's super important. Like, this was a good way to keep all the seeds together in one place last year, and the share plot farmers just stuck this like in the same place in the office every day before they went home. And so holding on to your seed packets is an important thing. It can be easy just to like not think about it when you're in the greenhouse. So trying to figure out a system like a Tupperware. Go ahead, Finley.
Well, yeah, my experience with certifier last year, I did have the same experience as what you just mentioned there.
Yeah.
I couldn't find my was it Green Tower seed packet, and we searched it everywhere, you know, with my van, and we couldn't find it. I was really disappointed, but she said it was okay, but just keep it next time. Just keep it in like a container or something like that.
Yeah. Another thing too is that I've found that at least our certifier will usually ask us for the seed that is not organic or that's weird, from some weird source, or they usually ask you about something that looks a little fishy. And so, I don't know. I mean, you should keep all of your seed packets, but if there's anything that's like a little weird, definitely keep those ones.
I know people were also taking pictures.
Yeah.
Take a photo of the seed
Yep.
packet. Just have a photo here.
Yep, that's a good idea. Pictures, other things we've like copied, we've photocopied. We used to do that more, and now I think I'm putting more responsibility on people to hold on to their own records, but we used to photocopy everyone's seed packets at the beginning of the year. So it's not a bad idea to keep those records some way.
If not, just keep your invoice that like Johnny sends you, or
Yep.
I know sends you.
Yeah,
That could be approved too, but they prefer they still want the packet.
yep. So yeah, so we ask everyone to keep both of those things. So keeping your invoice that comes with your seed order, and also keeping your seed packets. And I'm going to keep going. So so what defines organic seed? What does it mean if your seed is certified organic? It means that that seed was harvested from a plant that was certified organic. And so something to think about at your farm when you're growing seeds at your farm. If your farm is certified organic, all of your seeds that you save are already certified organic. But if you are not, if you're trying to use other seeds, so this, I'll get into this a little bit later, but yeah, so for just general purposes, organic seed is seed that has been harvested from a plant that's growing organically. Another definition is pelleted seeds. I don't think there's any pelleted seed in this box. You guys didn't use any pelleted seed last year, did you? Little white, okay. So I don't think I have an example to show you, but in the picture you can see they look like little white balls, and that each little white ball only has one seed in it. And so pelleted seed, for something like that lettuce seed that's like super tiny little seeds, and it's hard to just grab one seed, but you really only want to plant one seed, this is a way to plant more easily and more succinctly. So if we have a special seeder that can work with pelleted seeds, and for things like carrots, carrots are like really, really tiny little seeds. You seed them in a line and a million carrots come up, but you really only want one carrot every inch. So you have to go and spend the time to pull out all those other little random carrots that came up in the middle. And so it's a lot of work to thin. And so pelleted seed can save you a lot of time. It's it's often more expensive, and sometimes it's not allowed in organic. So depending on what that pelleted coating is made out of, you have to be careful that you're getting certified organic pelleted seed, or if it's not certified organic, making sure that that coating is something that is not a prohibited substance. And so a lot of times it's made out of like clay or something like that. So it just dissolves, and then you have just one plant coming up instead of like a whole bunch of little plants. So, go ahead.
Are there crops or varieties that you think are
Worth
really,
it?
that really you should invest the time and money into pelleted seeds.
Yeah, I mean, do you use pelleted seeds, Joe, or Friendly?
I did, and it's really good for doing transplant. But the other thing is, if you use a jang seeder or a earthquake seeder, it is really good.
Yeah.
Using it, so.
Yeah, I would.
I have an earthquake seeder and I'm just thinking like carrots. I'm thinking
Carrots, I would say carrots, beets,
Carrots,
the things that you have to thin.
Small seeds that are real troubling. Yeah.
I think sometimes, like May, I think, has had trouble with her earthway. I think it also might depend, like cedar to cedar. Like she said, she's had trouble with like sometimes the earthway like grinding it up instead of like having it go. So it's probably finding the right seed plate. But I think it can really save you a lot of time thinning so spending a little bit more money up front to spend less time later. Yeah. All right, and then this side has a lot of words, I apologize. So another definition is open pollinated. So open pollinated seeds or plants are just plants that they pollinate by nature. So like either blowing in the wind or from bees or insects, something happens in nature that plant can reproduce, and it reproduces the same type of thing every time it does that. So they're usually way cheaper, these open pollinated plants, because people don't have to do anything to them to make them reproduce. And so open pollinated seeds are just seeds it's a vegetable that relies on pollination by nature. And so they're just supernaturally occurring. And it always is producing plants like itself. So if you harvest the seeds, those are really good ones for seed saving. You can save the seeds and you know that the next year those seeds are going to produce the same plant, pretty close to the same plant.
Una pregunta ahí, por ejemplo, aquí esta semilla trae que es una variedad F1.
Yes.
Entonces, de esta semilla ya no podemos recolectar.
No, correcto. Yeah, so he's pointing out down on the bottom I have hybrid, and so you can tell, he already pointed it out that on a seed packet or a seed variety, if you see the letter F and the number 1, F1, that means it's a hybrid seed. And what a hybrid means is that it has been it's been cross-pollinated intentionally by people to produce a hybrid of some desirable traits. And so if you save the seeds from that crop and you plant them again, you're probably not going to come up with that same crop again. It's not going to reproduce itself because two parents have been like hybridized together intentionally by people to create this plant where we have these desirable characteristics, but it can't recreate itself. So if you ever see F1 on your seed packet or in the seed catalog, just know that you can't save seeds from those. And those are typically more expensive because it takes more work to make them. But it's still a naturally, it's a natural process. So it's people are intervening to make these crosses, but it's not like genetic modification, which we'll get into. So that's what a hybrid is. And then an heirloom is just like an open pollinated vegetable. So all heirloom plants are open pollinated. And an heirloom just means it's been passed down generations of people. So heirloom is they're like old traditional seed varieties. Questions on hybrid or open pollinated or heirloom? Okay. All right. And then we get into the ones that are not allowed. So all of those open pollinated and hybrid and heirloom seeds are all allowed in organic production. Treated seeds. So this is a picture of some treated seeds. So you'll notice some of them are really bright in color. They have some coating on them. And they have been covered with a chemical, which is usually used to kill bacteria or fungus. And so treated seeds are never allowed in organic production. So there's different ways you can tell whether or not seeds are treated. Sometimes you can just look at them and see they're really bright. Other times you can't. So you have to really be paying attention when you're making your seed order to make sure you're not accidentally ordering treated seeds. So a common place, I think of corn. Like corn, sometimes you see like hot pink corn seeds, and that means that it has a treatment on that seed. So for organic production, it's not allowed because they have chemicals. That's a chemical on the seed, and so that's not allowed. And then also genetically modified or GMO seeds. Those are seeds that have been intentionally altered in a way that's not possible in nature. So that's like gene splicing. An example of that is like Roundup Ready corn. So corn that you can spray with Roundup and it doesn't die. That's been like altered genetically, and that would never occur in nature, and that's not allowed in organic production. Questions on those?
I just want to add something. You know, treated seed.
Mm-hmm.
When I was ordering back when Johnny was still selling treated seed, I would do on a comment right now untreated, and they'd be sending me. I don't think Johnny does it anymore, so they don't send any more treated seed. But if you go to like Harrison Seed or something like that, which they still sell treated seed, right now untreated, they might send you the untreated seed.
Yeah, so specifying that you want untreated is important. Yeah. All right, so for organic, you need to be buying certified organic seed. That's the rule, that's the law, what the NOP says. However, there are exceptions. So it's okay to buy something that's not certified organic, but you just have to have a good reason for why not. So first, you're always looking for a certified organic seed. If you have a very good reason, so some possible reasons for not buying a seed organically is that there's a variety that's not available organically. So not all seed, like not everything is in high enough demand for people to be producing organic seed of every type of crop. So sometimes it's literally not available, or there's also seed shortages. So like sometimes the organic seeds sell out and then you want to plant that crop, and so you have to buy conventional seed. Or maybe you want that specific variety. So like Choa has some non-organic seeds for cucumbers. And can you tell us why?
Oh, because they don't carry the variety that I need to grow.
Yeah.
And so I have to buy the non-treated seed.
So she has the variety selection that she really wants, but they don't have it available organically. And so she can say why she wants that variety. And I don't know, why do you like that variety so much?
Because that's the one that I have for my market.
Mm-hmm.
And I have my own customer that they come every year for the same variety. And that's another part is the taste, the flavor is different from the other variety. And the shape that I'm growing, it's nicer when customers they buy. They look more the appearance of the cucumber. So that's there are different reasons why I'm keeping the same variety every year. So that's why when I grow organic, I need that same crop with the variety that I need.
So that's a good reason. Other reasons, and I think I'm going more into this later in the presentation, but reasons, go ahead.
Esa razón que dio es suficiente para que el certificador lo permita o así.
Yep. So that's a valid reason for a certifier to allow non-organic seed is if your market is demanding this variety and they want it, and so you can then, that's a good reason. Not a good reason is like the non-organic seed was cheaper. They won't accept that for a reason. I'm trying to think of other reasons why people might want organic. But so price is never a good reason, but if your market demands a certain variety and that's a good reason. So you can talk to your certifier too. I think we use our certifier as like a resource, and so you don't have to only send in your packet and then wait for the inspection, and you can have a relationship with your certifier and call them and be like, hey, this is what I'm experiencing, can I do this or not, and then they'll tell you, and so you don't have to be wondering.
Here's one that I asked last year, I got denied. Johnny
Yeah.
has the conventional one and the Gmo has the organic one. You can't just say that because you're buying everything from Johnny,
Yeah.
because that's not gonna ride. You gotta, if Gmo has it, you gotta buy from Gmo
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's organic. So.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about you have to look in at least 3 places to also justify you buying non-organic seed. And so you have to document that, and we're going to get into that. But you want to, like, sometimes you get free shipping if you go over like $75 or something on your order. And so you have a vested interest in like, I want to buy all my seeds from this company. But if they're available organically from another company that you are like, that's like super, like one of these 3 companies, for instance, Johnny's, High Mowing, or Seed Savers, that's not a good reason because they are available organically. You're just trying to get free shipping. So.
What happens with the cucumbers then? Are they not organic?
They are organic.
They are?
They are organic, yeah.
Okay.
So you can use non-organic seed and grow something that is then organic. So then if those were not a hybrid, she could save her seed and use those seed, and then it would be certified organic from here on. She could be the seed supplier for that organic cucumber, but I don't know if they're a hybrid. Are they hybrid?
No, for the cucumber, we have to buy every year. I can't say because I don't want to grow. I don't want the crop to turn out not to get the same picture that I usually have. So every year I buy new seed. But for the Asian cucumber, like the Mulch cucumber, the Mulch people like seed that grow very big. Those we save it year to years, so it never change. So every year we save it, we grow, and we give the same crop every year. So that's I save it and I grow every year. But for the cucumber, like pickle, I have to buy every year because I want to give good quality for my customer.
Yeah, and I think that I don't have as much experience probably as you do with like saving seed, but I do think that like saving seed, even if it's an open pollinated variety, it's not always going to be exactly the same if you save the seed because like mutations happen and like generation to generation the plants can look a little bit different. So that's interesting, but I'm not knowledgeable on that. So finding organic seeds. So I have 3 seed catalogs in the back. Feel free to take them with you if you want to, or grab. I would actually recommend. Maybe would you mind passing out some of the seed catalogs to the tables? So we have Johnny's, Seed Savers, and High Mowing. So these are just 3 common seed companies that people order from. There's a lot more too. You can find seeds all over the place online. Where else do people order seeds from? Territorial. Yep.
I like Albert Lee Seed House.
Albert Lee, yeah. So there's lots of different places people can order seed. I'm just going to go through a few examples just because I have these seed catalogs. But so as someone already mentioned, was it Fenley maybe? High Mowing, all of the seeds in the whole High Mowing catalog are all certified organic. So this catalog is super easy. If you order everything from here, it'll all be certified organic. You don't even have to think about it. That said, they don't have all the same varieties. So maybe there's a different variety that you want in the Johnny's catalog. And so Johnny's and Seed Savers both sell conventional and organic varieties. And so, so you can look online or in the catalogs, and you can tell which ones are organic in different ways. So this is from the online website. So you can see in Johnny's, I'm pretty sure this top one is from Johnny's. And you can see it says organic F1 broccoli seeds. So you know that's a hybrid and certified organic broccoli. In Seed Savers, they use the organic logo. So they signify that it's organic in a different way. Territorial, so this is one Fenley mentioned. They actually list organic and conventional together on the same page. So this is on their online, I don't have this catalog, but you can see this one does not say organic and this one does say organic. And so you have to be really careful that you're ordering the organic seed when you're looking in all of these different sources. I also put a website that's really hard to see, but it's pickacarrot.com, like pickacarrot.com. And that's like a search engine for organic seeds. So if you want to look on like a whole bunch of different websites online for organic seeds, you can check that website out too. But just the main message here is just to be careful when you're looking at seed catalogs and online, that you are paying attention to that, whether or not it's certified organic. So I'm trying to think if I'm going to, we're going to look at the seed catalogs later. Sorry, I had to pass them out early. So we already talked a little bit about when is it okay to use non-organic seed. And so in order to use non-organic seed, you have to prove, one, that you could not find the organic version of that seed. So the organic seed is not available. Two, you have to prove that the seed is not genetically modified. And three, you have to prove that the seed is not treated. So if you're going to use non-organic seeds, those are the 3 steps that you have to be able to verify. And does everyone have the seed search and order form? That was one of the handouts today. I just took, actually Molly took the top line out of that seed search and order. And she filled out a seed search. So you'll see, we're going to start filling this out today for your farms, but you're writing in first the crop, and then you're writing in the variety. So this is for broccoli. And then we're documenting what's the source of that seed. So this is from Johnny's seed catalog. She didn't yet calculate how much she wants, or the item number, or the cost. But she did verify that she looked for this broccoli in 3 places. And she could not find it available organically. So that is documenting your seed search, is you have to look in at least 3 places and it cannot be available organically. And she put the date, and she also listed the reason why she's using non-organic seeds. So it's because of the variety. She likes that variety, Imperial, and it's not available organically. So this is all you really need to do to document that you looked in 3 places, is just write down the 3 places you looked and the date that you looked. And the date is important because seeds can become available and then go away at different times of the year. So like maybe there was a lot of organic Imperial broccoli available like December and January, but then by the time Molly looked in February, it was all gone and she couldn't find it anywhere. So it's important to note the date that you looked in each of these places and like the name of the company that you were looking at. And also to document the reason why you're using this variety in particular. And these 3 places, like if you are looking for all of your seeds in Johnny's Seed Savers and High Mowing, those can be the 3 places that you're looking for your, like you don't have to spend like hours and hours and hours looking online and like going to obscure websites looking for organic seed. They don't expect you to do that because that's unreasonable for a farmer to spend that much time doing that. So they just want you to look in like reasonable places. So like your main catalogs, yeah.
That's really interesting to know because salad turnips, organic salad turnips, like High Mowing had them, they're now sold out. Johnny's doesn't have them. And I looked at, I think maybe the Jordan Seeds and then Albert Lee, and they don't have them either. And so
Yeah, so that would be
the conventional, but not the organic.
So that would be a reason to buy the conventional seed. And just noting the dates that you were looking, and then also making sure that it's not, I mean, I'll go into this too, but making sure that it's not treated or genetically modified, which it likely is not for turnips. Okay, so now proving that the seed is not genetically modified. So I actually just saw in the back of the Seed Savers catalog, I think, maybe I didn't. So there's certain seed companies that have made the Safe Seed Pledge, which is essentially, they've signed an agreement saying that they will not use genetically modified seeds. Okay, here it is. So in the Seed Savers catalog, on page 141, if you want to see the Safe Seed Pledge, it's here in the corner on page 141 of Seed Savers. And it basically just says that they are not using genetically modified seeds at all as a whole company. And so if you get your seeds from any of the companies on this list, or you can call the seed company and say, hey, did you sign the Safe Seed Pledge? Then you automatically know that they don't have any genetically modified seeds. And I think that this is usually a pretty easy thing to prove because there's so many seed companies that don't use genetically modified seeds, and those are typically the ones that we're ordering our vegetable seeds from. But you can call them, or you can get a letter if someone's not on the Safe Seed Pledge that says that they're not genetically modified. You can also call and document a phone conversation, write who you talked to, what they said, and the date, and that counts too. So, but that's kind of an easy one. Questions on that? And then proving the seed is not treated. So there are a lot of seed companies that sell both treated and untreated seeds. So Johnny's, for example, they have treated corn, I know, sweet corn. So on page 34, you'll see that there are a number of ones. If you look in the description, it'll say untreated or treated. So they have options of sweet corn if you want to get treated or untreated corn. So if you're ordering a non-organic variety, you have to make sure that it's the untreated kind. And then there are other companies that don't sell treated seeds. So this is another example. Oh, actually, no, it's not yet. I'm gonna go here quick. So this is that same thing I was just pointing out. So like another thing is like in the item number. So for the treated seed, the item number is 6073T. So T for treated versus 6036 is the untreated. So there's no T. So that's another way to know. And then using safe seeds. So we already talked about if you are saving seed from crops that were certified organic crops, it's always okay to use safe seed for organic. But if the seed was saved from crops that are not certified organic, we basically have to seed it as a non-organic seed. So you have to do your seed search, and you have to do, you also have to get a letter from whoever grew the crops that says that it's not treated and it's not genetically modified. So we have a draft of that letter, so if anyone has a safe seed from someone who was not certified organic that you want to use, we can get you that draft letter, but we have to track down the person that grew the plants. It's a bit unfortunate, I think, because it sort of discourages seed saving in a way, and so Molly, actually our farm director, went and testified to try to urge the people that write the organic law to change this rule because it's not very conducive to people that want to save seeds. But for now, this is the law, and this is kind of the case, what we have to do. So if you're saving from organic crops, that's okay. If you're saving from not certified organic crops, you have to treat it the same as any other non-organic seed. So doing the seed search. Go ahead.
What does the record look like for saving seed from your own certified organic crop?
Yeah, so to be honest, did you keep those records, Joa? Of like when you saved your seed?
Yeah.
You did last year, because you saved seed and you wanted it certified organic, and you came up with this, you just kind of described how you did it.
I just write a note and the step of how I clean the seed and how I dry the seed and how I storage. Because I don't use any chemical or anything, so I just use water.
Yeah. So she just wrote down her process.
Yeah.
And then do you have to write down every time that you do that, or they don't make you do that? Like, do you have to write the dates of when you saved the seeds?
No, because last year I didn't know that we need that process document. document it, so I just write down the month, because I don't remember the date. So before, because we're not organic, we do it and keep it. So we didn't document anything. So I just remember the month, see which month that we harvest, and we do it, so I just document the month, that's it. And the step how I do it.
Yeah. So a lot of things like for organic certification, they tell us what you're doing and like write it down in a plan, and then they will audit you kind of based on your own plan. So it's kind of interesting. There's not like always a prescribed way of doing things. We give you some tools, like the seed search form is something that we made just to try to make it easier. But people do it in different ways. So that's, yeah. So you can do that.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Okay, so I did receive some seeds from a patient. It was very, very sweet. He gave me some heirlooms, I think elk heart tomatoes, but I don't know how he grew them. But if I find out that, I mean, they're in his backyard.
Yeah.
If he did not use any chemicals,
Yeah.
then I could treat those as organic seeds.
Yeah, and like technically, it would be something to check too if you're getting your certification this year to like ask your certifier, like, what do you want me to do? Our certifier asks us to ask that man to sign a letter saying, and like I usually write the letter and just have him sign it, and it just says like I grew these seeds on my property and they are not treated or genetically modified.
Because I think there's seeds that he's been saving himself every single year.
Yeah.
He can't find the seeds anywhere.
That's cool. And yeah, I mean, that's the part where it's like seems sort of stupid that you have to do that, but like, but I think that could be like a reason too, like, oh, this is this heirloom variety, like that's a good reason to be growing them.
Yeah.
You can't find them, you know, in the stores.
No, and I've looked, I found like a Hungarian heart, like from rare seeds, but I've not been able to develop an elk heart.
Yeah. So that's a valid reason, and then technically our certifier would ask us for him to sign a letter saying that he did not treat. And it's like, obviously he's not going to treat his seeds or genetically modify them, but like we still have to get the documentation, but yeah.
I'm excited to use them.
All right, and then deciding on varieties. And I'm sad that May's not here because she's great at giving advice on varieties, but we do have our recommended varieties handout, which I believe most people already have. I think there's some extra copies by the door too. So you can look there. Another resource, Trisha put up that handout that Waku had found at the Moses conference about other not the Moses conference, the Organic Fruit and Vegetable Growers Conference in Madison. He put up another document that has even more recommended varieties. So you can look at those lists if that's something that you want to do. Or you can just look at a couple, like look at these catalogs and just decide on some that you think look interesting because you want it to be fun, and read the descriptions. Go ahead.
That list that you had uploaded, that was really helpful because there was a couple of brands that or varieties that I've never tried before, but like looking at what those other growers had done and what they had to say about it was really helpful.
Good.
Yeah.
So it has like reviews. I don't even actually look at it. So it has like.
Oh, I've gone through almost every variety.
That's awesome.
It
Cool.
was really helpful.
Yeah, or talk to your community of farmers. I mean, I think that's what I do. I talk to like my dad and May, and I ask people like, what are you growing? Like, what's good? And just to get started, and then you can experiment with varieties. Yeah. All right, and so we're gonna get, what time is it? Does anyone have the time? Okay, so I'm gonna use the last bit of class to go over like the calculating and mathematical part of doing a seed order, which is sometimes the more confusing part. And so we're gonna go over this seed search and order form, and we're gonna do some examples from the shared plot. So again, you can use whatever format you want to keep the records of your seed search. The order form just kind of helps us, like we recommend using this form because it kind of helps you keep everything organized in one place. But if you prefer to have a notebook or like an Excel sheet where you're keeping this information, that's fine. Usually certifiers only care that you can explain your own system. So it doesn't matter if it's not exactly the same as ours. But we're gonna go through this form for tonight. So there are different ways to order seeds. So we already noticed in our example of the seed packets that one seed packet said it was 1/32 of an ounce. I think. So it's by ounce or weight. And you can also order seed by count. So does anyone, well, it says on our PowerPoint, 1M, the letter M in seed catalog language or Roman numerals stands for 1,000. So if you ever see M, it's whatever the number before the M multiplied by 1,000. So 5M would be 5,000, or 10M would be 10,000. So M just means 1,000. So some seeds are listed by the M, or they're listed by the seed count. I'm sorry, by the ounces. And so in Johnny's, for example, if we go back to corn, and we find, actually this is a weird example. Oh, here we go. Usually it's at the beginning of the section, but this one's on page 35. There's a green box right here. And in the bottom of the green box, there's something that says seed specs. And this is a little bit of a weird example still, because corn is big seeds, and so they're telling you by the pound rather than the ounce. But this is telling us the average number of seeds per pound. So you can always look in the seed specs and find out what's the number of seeds per pound or per ounce. So that's a place you can look. Did everybody find it? I'm on page 35 in Johnny's catalog. Or how many seeds per pound or per ounce? How many seeds per ounce are peppers? Can anyone find peppers? Does everyone see seed specs? And the seed catalogs typically are pretty much alphabetical. So I'm on page 97 for peppers. 4,300 seeds per ounce. So right on the bottom of the page. So that's one place you can look to find out the conversion of weight to number of seeds. Let's look at high mowing. So let's look up how they convert it in high mowing for peppers. So peppers are on page 66.
Which catalog?
I'm looking now in high mowing catalog. Does anybody find it? They have it a little bit different. It's not as obvious, I think, in high mowing.
What seeds per ounce?
Yeah.
Well, it looks like about 4,000 average.
Yeah, so she's looking at the top of this. So there's another category called seed specs, and it's right underneath the heading of peppers. So typically these little boxes of information are right by the beginning of the section of peppers, and it's under the seed specs that tells you, this one says 2.8 to 4.9 M or 1,000, and then it says 4,000 average seeds per ounce. It also gives you the seeds per pound. And it actually is giving you a little conversion. 1/64 of an ounce equals approximately 60 seeds. So that's kind of nice. They're doing a little math for you. So that's kind of good places to look to find out, like if you're trying to calculate in a number, because like we know based on our crop plan how many plants we want, but then how many M's does that mean we need for seeds? So that's where you can find that information. Does anybody else do that a different way, other than looking in those seed specs? No? Okay, good. That's the only way I know.
I did it from using the diagram up here, how long the rows were, how
Yes.
many seeds I needed.
Yeah, so I think we maybe looked at this page. You're looking in Johnny's?
Yeah,
So on page, what page are you on?
just like
Page 4?
Page.
So page 4, I think we already looked at this. Did we look at this already when we were calculating? Maybe Molly and I looked at this in the office, but this is another little cheat sheet that Johnny's puts out, and it gives you amounts per 100-foot row or per acre. So we can find peppers on this list. Can we? Oh, so they're on the bottom under transplanted. And it tells you, so plants to expect from 1,000 seeds. It tells you 750 plants. So it's a little bit different of a calculation, but. Yeah.
Can I share with you a little comment that I did
Mm-hmm.
with my onions? I screwed up on my seed order. I didn't realize I didn't tell yesterday. So on here, my onions, the bulbing ones, it said 2,000 seeds per 100-foot row. And that's roughly about how much I'm planting. Except then when I was doing my soil blockers yesterday, and I was putting about 4 seeds per soil block, I have way too many seeds. I have a lot of extra seeds. So I need to plant more onions or.
Maybe you can do a deal with somebody. Yeah. And then I'm just looking in Seed Savers, and these guys are more specialty, so they don't have as big of packets typically. So they just have it by the number, it looks like always. So looking at any plant, it just is telling you in the price tag, you can either get 250, 500, or 1,000 seeds. So these guys are more like really specialty heirloom products. All right. And then calculating how much you order. So for transplanted crops, we would do the flat size, so like a 72 or a 50, and then multiply it by the number of seeds per cell, which you're talking about, putting 4 seeds per cell, and then we multiply a little bit more to get some extra. So I think we should go and do some examples of this. And so let's look at does everybody have this year 1 or did some people get year 2 shared plot seed order? So you have year 2. Here's year 1 just so you can look at it. So we ordered, it's kind of hard to see on here, but this is filled out for a couple of, it's filled out for a couple of crops. So the first one is cauliflower. And I'm just gonna get out of this PowerPoint for a second. I'm gonna go to our, since it's a transplanted crop, I'm gonna go to our greenhouse plan. Oh, it's already up here, sorry. So we're looking at cauliflower. So we have 2 plantings of cauliflower, and so we can consider both of them together for the seed order since it's the same variety. And so we know, let's see what I said for my, how many plants do we want? 89? Or what did you say?
Oh, I was just adding the 400 and the 400.
800.
Yeah.
800 plants. I'm just gonna put this next to each other. Okay. So for cauliflower, so we want 800 plants. On the, I should mention this too. On this greenhouse and planting guide, does everybody have this? We're gonna look at the transplant tab. And this column, H, tells us the number of seeds per cell. So some things, like in a 72, there's 72 holes in the flat. Some things you're gonna just put one seed if it has a really high germination rate, which means like a lot, like almost all the seeds are going to germinate, or sometimes you're going to want to put 2 or 3 seeds per cell if it doesn't have as good of a germination rate, and it just depends crop to crop, which ones have good germination rates and which ones don't have as good of germination rates. And it also tells you that information on the seed packet. That's another thing. We didn't talk about germination rate. It also says the percentage of seeds that will germinate on your seed packet. But so for cauliflower, it looks like you only really need to put 1 seed per cell. So that has a pretty good germination rate, and so we don't have to get a lot of extra seeds. And I should say too, when you put 2 or 3 seeds per cell, that's counting on only 1 or 2 of them coming up. So sometimes you're also going back and thinning in your greenhouse in that case, because you only want 1 seed per cell, 1 plant. Typically, like green onions would be one exception. But typically you only want one plant per cell. And so if you get really good germination, then you're gonna have to go back and thin. But that's better than having blank cells in your flats, because that means you're not gonna have enough plants. So we're gonna do 1 seed per cell. And we are doing it in a 72, right? So this is our flat size. And so I feel like this, so okay. So we're doing we need to also multiply this by the number of flats. So there's a missing piece to this equation. I apologize. I'm just looking at it and it's not making sense. I'm gonna grab a marker and then we can. Are there some? Cool. So, what would my equation be to determine how many cauliflower seeds to order? So I'm gonna add in this equation. We're gonna also multiply it by the number of flats. So we have the flat size is 72. And then the seeds per cell, how many seeds per cell for cauliflower? 1. And then I'm gonna multiply this by 14. Actually 14, because we have 2 plantings. So 14. And then we're adding in a little bit of extra. So times 1.2 is just giving us extra. So this is the flat size. This is seeds per cell. This is the number of flats. And this is the extra. And what is that?
1,210.
Okay. Does that everybody get the same answer? So that's how many seeds we want. And so Molly ordered her seeds from Johnny's. So let's find the variety Skywalker cauliflower in the Johnny's catalog. When somebody finds it, tell us the page number. 29. Okay, so here it is. All right, so does everybody find it? Skywalker. It's the second one from the top left. So we want 1,210 seeds. And you can see underneath this description, they sell a packet for 50, which is not nearly enough seeds. They sell 100 seeds, which is also not enough seeds. They sell 250 seeds, which is not enough yet. And so we're looking at either 1,000 seeds, right? Or you could go 5M, which is 5,000. But that's like way more than we need. Or we could do a combo. We could do like the 1,000 seeds plus the 250, right?
Yeah.
So that's probably what I would do. I'm looking at Molly's seed order and it looks like she just ordered 1,000. So she's not factoring in as much extra as we were talking about, but we'll just go with Molly on that one. So that's kind of what you can do for transplanted crops. Let's do the next one. So she also did leeks, right? So we're gonna find leeks in our greenhouse plan. And there's just one planting, right, of leeks? Okay. So for leeks, what's our flat size? Yep, so starting leeks in an open flat. Does anybody remember how many plants typically fit in an open plant, in an open flat? 300, yeah. So the flat size, it's called open, but we know that about 300 plants fit in an open flat. So that's just a number to keep on your cheat sheets. And that basically is putting 30 seeds in 10 rows. And then what's the seeds per cell? Does anyone have that document handy? On the greenhouse and field planting guide? Are leeks on here?
You're talking about leeks?
Yeah.
It's blank.
It's blank. Okay, well, that's because there is no cell, right? So this is a funny example. This is an interesting example because you have an open flat. And so the other way we could do this is look at like the germination rate, I think. This is a bad example, especially for me to be teaching and I don't. So we're looking at Johnny's again, and she got leeks. King Richard is the variety. So when someone finds it, yell it out.
67.
67. Here it is. All right, so I'm looking to see if it has germination rate in the catalog, but I don't know if it does. I don't see it either. I wonder, I'm gonna look at this for onions and assume that maybe they're sort of similar. So onions, well, that's for, they don't have one either. Well, let's try it with one and just see if our calculation lined up with Molly's. So that's a bad example because I don't have the right information.
Would this be helpful at all? It says a packet is 175 seeds. And it says average yield per 100 feet is 150 stalks.
Yeah.
I remember Molly, when Molly helping me calculate mine, she said for an open flat, the average will be around 300 seeds.
Yeah.
For an open flat.
Out of those, how many do you think germinate? I feel like it's really high.
20%.
100%.
I was
Yeah.
I was thinking it was 100 because you pick each one out and you're going to put one good one in each of the 128 cell tray.
Yep. Oh, because are you potting those up into a 128?
I think so.
what I wrote down.
You're probably right.
And so because they're potting up, it's 100%, just pick the good ones out of the open tray. That's what I thought I.
Yeah, so we would probably want to seed a few extra, but I think let's try calculating it with just one seed per cell, assuming that we're going to get 300 plants from an open flat that we seed. Sorry for that confusion. How many flats of leeks do we want?
2 trays, it says.
Of open? Okay. And then let's multiply. So we're figuring in some extra here. And let's see if this is what Molly did. This will be our error correction. So can someone do this calculation? 300 plants.
720.
300 times 1 times 2 times 1.2? 720. So 720 seeds. Let's see what Molly ordered. She ordered a fourth of an ounce, so we have to figure out what does that mean? And this is kind of how it goes with your seed order. So let's look at King Richard on page 67. And
1 ounce is 6,000 plants.
where did you find that?
Oh, in Johnny.
In the green box, the leeks box.
Under leeks. So can you say that again? 1 ounce is 6,000 plants.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a lot of plants. We don't need anything near that. And we also know that there are average of 9,400 seeds per ounce, right? Do you guys see that under seed specs? So we'll say there's 9,400 seeds per ounce. And then what would our calculation be to figure out how many seeds are in a quarter of an ounce, which is what we ordered? So we're going to divide this by 4, which is 2350. So she definitely figured in some extra. That's quite a difference from our 720 to 2350. So, either the leeks don't have a good germination rate, or
So then just divide that by 4.
if you look too, I'm wondering too if maybe she did calculate a similar amount.
But she wanted to have more than the
But
packet.
she wanted to have more than the packet, because you see in the very bottom, the last thing in the seed specs, it says packet, and it says there's 250 seeds per packet. And you can see that a packet, so
You get a
it's,
packet or a fourth an ounce. So you
Exactly.
go for the bigger size.
so a packet, you'd have to order, how many packets? You'd have to order 3 packets, which would cost us 3 times $4.55, which is like, whatever, $16.50? Or we could order a quarter of an ounce. We have way more seeds than we need, but it's cheaper. So I think that's probably what Molly did. Did everybody follow that?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Oh, you didn't follow? Sure. Yeah, that's okay. So, so we found out that Molly actually ordered a quarter of an ounce, and there were 9,400 seeds per ounce. We got that information from this specs, from the seed specs. And so we divided it by 4 to find out how many seeds were in a quarter of an ounce, which was this much.
Not the transplant.
Right, not CDS.
9,400 semillas, donde dice seeds per ounce.
So,
Y 9,400.
well, they're working on that. Let's do another one. Do you all want to try celery? Did you get it? Yeah. So we ordered a quarter of an ounce because it's more expensive to order 3 packets than it is to order a full quarter of an ounce. All right, so now we're going to do this example of celery. So we have another open flat situation, and we only want 1 flat. So whenever somebody has it.
What's the page?
Oh,
What do you?
I'm just thinking to do this one on your own, and then we can.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. That's another bad example. There's no seeds for sale.
Is it just one plant of celery or?
So it's 1 flat of celery.
Is it just, 300 times 1.2?
Yeah, I think so, because it's an open flat, so we have 300. We have 300 plants per flat. And we're only doing, we're going to just estimate again 1 seed per cell for that one, since it's an open flat. And we only have 1 flat. And then we'll estimate the 1.2% extra. So then what is that? 360? So, shared plot farmers, do you want to pick out a variety of celery?
Dos paquetes. El paquete trae 200.
I think there might be a recommended variety too of celery. Does anyone see that on the recommended varieties list?
But it says plants needed 225, right? So.
Yeah. So,
We have an open flat, we go with 300.
yeah. So, yeah. I mean, we probably would be fine with 300 too in that case, because we don't even need the whole open flat, but we can look and see how they list the celery and see if it makes sense to order enough for 360, or if there's like a packet for 300 seeds, then that would make sense.
Tango is recommended on.
Okay, cool. And so they have Tango and Johnny's, and it's certified organic.
I think that's the only organic variety.
Yeah, they only have like a couple, I guess. And so do you guys see how many seeds are in 1 packet?
250.
So, how many seeds?
Divide 1,000.
Yeah. You could either buy, so we're on page 30. Yeah, it is also, it's available with pelleting. So, how many do you think would you rather order 1 or 2 packets? Or would you rather order 1,000 seeds?
1,000 is due for next year.
You want to do 1,000? Yeah. So yeah, I would probably just do 1,000. You have extra. We're also, yeah, depending on what your budget is like, right? You could maybe get squeezed by with 250. That would be a little risky, but
It's not that much more, they're pretty cheap.
they're pretty cheap. So this is all kind of like this balancing exercise. And then for the last one, we're going to do direct seed, because direct seed is a little bit more complicated.
I'm just wondering about your factoring in your bed size.
Yes. So that's about. So we kind of did that when we calculated the number of plants we needed.
Okay, you already did that for the numbers that you came up with.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we're gonna do this for direct seeded crops, which does factor in how long our rows are. So for cilantro, let's do cilantro. And make sure you write down that 1,000 because we'll actually use this for your seed order for the third pot farmers. So on that same handout where it says seeds per cell, on the other page for direct seeded crops, there's a column that says seeds per foot, or SPF. So on this document again, we're going to now switch to the second page, which is direct seed. And we can find cilantro. And it tells us, actually it doesn't say SPF, it says in-row spacing. So this one for cilantro, it says there are 10 seeds per every foot. So as you're going along with your seeder, or if you don't have a seeder with your hand, you're going to put 10 seeds per foot, okay? And so our equation to calculate the number of seeds is going to be the seeds per foot multiplied by the bed feet. So does anybody know that term, bed feet? So it's like, how long is your bed? So how long is the shared plot farmer's bed?
Well, when we first did this, it was 150.
Yeah. Let's do it with how you first did it.
150.
So seeds per foot times 150 feet, bed feet. And then we have to calculate in how many rows per bed. How many rows per bed when you're planting cilantro? Do you guys know? It should be on your... No, I think you can fit more. So I'm going to look at this. 3. And so this is information that's on your field plan and record, right? So we already calculated. Actually, we already have this in our field plan and planting record too, so we don't even need to refer back anymore. So we have 3 rows per bed. And then we have to know how many beds, right? Is the last part of our... Sorry, this is awkward to look at 2 things at once. So the last one, well, we also should incorporate the number of beds. So there's another missing piece of information in this equation. So how many beds of cilantro are there in the shared plot plan?
1. I think it's half and half. Those spaces, yeah.
Yep.
Maybe of those spaces.
Okay, una cama.
One bed.
Yes.
Yeah, because we have a half a bed in the first planting and then a half a bed in the second planting. So 1 bed total for our seed order. And then we're going to just do our 1.2 for extra, for good measure. So we have 10 times 150 times 3 times 1 times 1.2. 5,400. So, do we want to look at cilantro? What variety of cilantro are you interested in ordering? We've done the Santo variety before, which has been fine.
It looks like there's only 1 organic variety.
in Johnny's.
Yeah, 152, maybe 152. Leisure.
Okay. Yeah. So we must have done Santo because we liked it better at some point. Does anyone see cilantro on our recommended varieties list, or is it not on there?
I think high mowing has it.
High mowing?
Cilantro.
Yeah, it does.
Does it say Santo, or what does it say?
Santo and
Okay, and so neither of those varieties are in Johnny's, so we can look in our high mowing catalog. Which page are you on in high mowing? So on page 98 in high mowing in this catalog, there is both Caribe and Santo. So for Caribe, the description, dense bunches of aromatic dark green leaves on long-standing bolt-tolerant plants. Compared to Santo, it has a thinner stem, higher vigor and seed emergence, and better bolt tolerance in field. So it kind of seems like that would be the better one, right?
then it says, great choice for greenhouse growers. Does that mean
All the way to the bottom.
it would be in the greenhouse the whole time?
Good greenhouse crop. We're not going to plant it in the greenhouse.
Maybe Santo?
Yeah, we could do Santo. I think both of them are going to be fine. For the purposes of ending class, let's just do Santo for now. And so you see in high mowing, they organize their catalog a little bit differently. And the next page is where they have like a chart with all the prices. And of course they have it in seeds per ounce, right? So for Santo, do you see Santo on there?
Yes.
Oh, here it is. So the smallest they have is 1/8 of an ounce. Let's find out how many seeds.
I think it's 2.2 per ounce.
Seeds per ounce?
Oh, yep. So there's a little math there, right? So we have in the description under Santo, it says the last thing it says is 2.2 m seeds per ounce. So that's 2,200 seeds per ounce. So what's this divided by 8?
Where did you find the seed count?
Don't you need 5,400?
Seeds per ounce? It's actually in this like
95, is it?
2.2 m.
2.2 m. Oh, sorry.
So it's actually under like, it's like a,
2.2 m.
the last thing
Seeds
it
per ounce.
says.
Oh, okay.
So how much is this divided by 8 to find out for 1/8 of an ounce?
1200 semillas por onza. Entonces, ¿cuánto necesitamos? 5,000.
270.
Entonces, 2 onzas.
Oh, but we already know we need way more than that. So I'm sorry, I should not be doing this. We should be multiplying, right? So how many ounces? If we need 5,400 seeds, that's what we want.
2 ounces.
And we know that there's 2,200 seeds per ounce. How many ounces should we, what's the calculation?
400 y necesitamos 2,000. Y nada más de 2,200 por onza.
400 divided by 2,200
5,400
is 2.45.
nos da 2.45.
So we want 2.45 ounces.
2.45
That equals,
para poder tener
Oh, so we could get
5,400.
two of the 2 ounce packets and one of the 1/2 ounce packets.
yep.
Paquetes de 2 onzas y uno de media onza.
One of the 2 months and one, yeah.
Oh, yes,
Okay,
you're
okay,
right.
okay.
See, that's why I was like, you're hooked on the 2.
Yeah. So in order to get that, we could go back and look at our chart here and calculate.
Un paquete de dos.
Yep, 2 ounces, yep. All right, so I'm gonna stop because I'm going over time. This will be homework for everyone to work on their seed orders. And try to have it done if possible. It would be great to finalize this on Wednesday so that we can make your seed order for the shared plot farmers anyway. And that's my last advice, is to use your records, because this is a lot of math and kind of complicated. But if you have records from last year, it can be easier to calculate using your records rather than doing all the math every year. But yeah, so Trisha's passing around a little evaluation. Please fill that out and leave it by the door or with Trisha before you go. And try to work on your seed order. If you have time, it would be great to finalize this on Wednesday. And I will also say that we're all available to help and give you feedback. So if you want to check over your seed order, email it to me or bring it to class and we can give you feedback and say, does this make sense or not? Like, am I totally off? We're happy to do that. So just send in your plans once you have them too.